Homelessness is a crisis that casts a long shadow over the United States, the wealthiest nation in the world. It is a problem that should not exist in a country with some of the largest corporations, the highest GDP, and enormous reserves of capital. Yet in cities across America, from the streets of Los Angeles to the sidewalks of New York City, people are living in conditions that most would think unimaginable in such an affluent society. On any given night, more than 500,000 Americans are homeless. They sleep on sidewalks, in parks, in cars, or under the protection of bridges. They are often forgotten, pushed to the margins of society, and treated as invisible. The homelessness crisis is not a new phenomenon, but it has worsened significantly in recent decades. Historically, homelessness was tied to the cycles of poverty, economic recession, and periods of high unemployment. However, what we are witnessing today is something different, a perfect storm of factors coming together to create a nationwide crisis. Despite America's vast resources, wealth inequality, the erosion of social safety nets, and the skyrocketing costs of living have left millions without access to stable housing. The system itself is broken, and it has failed to protect the most vulnerable among us. The scope of the crisis. Homelessness in America is not confined to just one city or one group of people. It is a nationwide issue that affects urban, suburban, and rural communities alike. According to the latest data from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, more than 580,000 people experience homelessness on any given night in the United States. While the numbers fluctuate slightly, the general trend is clear. Homelessness is on the rise. In some places like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Seattle, the homeless population has surged in recent years, transforming streets and public spaces into sprawling encampments. These cities have become synonymous with homelessness, but the issue extends beyond their borders. In fact, homelessness in rural areas is often just as severe, though it is less visible. In small towns and rural communities, homelessness may look different, but it still exists. People who live in rural America may not have the same resources or infrastructure as those in large cities, making it harder for them to escape the cycle of poverty and homelessness. They may sleep in cars, in trailers, or in the woods. They are often isolated, without access to the shelter and services that are available in more densely populated areas. In some cases, homelessness can be a hidden crisis. Families are increasingly living in cars or couch surfing with friends and relatives, trying to make do without a permanent place to live. Many of these families are employed, yet their wages are not enough to keep up with rising rents. With the cost of housing skyrocketing in cities across the country, even those who are working full-time are finding themselves unable to afford a stable home. This disparity between wages and housing costs has led to a growing number of working-class individuals and families being pushed into homelessness. The faces of homelessness. Homelessness is often stereotyped as a problem affecting only those with severe mental health issues or addiction problems. While substance abuse and mental illness are indeed significant factors contributing to homelessness, the reality is much more complex. In fact, many of the people experiencing homelessness in America are children, families, and elderly individuals who have been pushed into this crisis by circumstances beyond their control. Families are one of the fastest-growing segments of the homeless population. In many cases, it is the result of a single crisis, such as the loss of a job, an unexpected medical emergency, or a sudden increase in rent that forces them to the streets. For these families, homelessness is often temporary but devastating. It disrupts their lives, causes children to miss school, and deprives them of the stability they need to thrive. Yet, even for these families, finding an affordable place to live is nearly impossible in many of the nation's largest cities. Another vulnerable group within the homeless population is veterans. According to a report by the National Coalition for Homeless Veterans, there are an estimated 40,000 homeless veterans in the United States, with many more at risk. These men and women have served their country in wars abroad, only to return home and face homelessness due to physical and mental health challenges, unemployment, and a lack of adequate support. Despite the fact that they have given so much for their country, the systems meant to help them have failed. LGBTQ+ youth are another group disproportionately affected by homelessness. A 2020 report from the True Colors Fund estimated that up to 40% of homeless youth identify as LGBTQ+. Many of these young people are kicked out of their homes by family members who reject them because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. With little to no family support, they often find themselves on the streets, vulnerable to exploitation, violence, and abuse. These young people often face unique challenges in finding safe spaces and support systems, making it even harder for them to escape homelessness. The root causes. Why does homelessness persist? The causes of homelessness are multifaceted and deeply rooted in the country's social, economic, and political systems. One of the primary drivers of homelessness is the lack of affordable housing. In many of the country's largest cities, the cost of living has skyrocketed while wages for low-income workers have stagnated. The result is a severe shortage of affordable housing for low and moderate-income individuals and families. Rent prices have become increasingly unaffordable, and there are simply not enough affordable homes to meet demand. Zoning laws, gentrification, and housing speculation have all contributed to this crisis. Restrictive zoning laws limit the construction of affordable housing in many areas, making it difficult to build homes that low-income individuals can afford. Meanwhile, gentrification, the process by which wealthier residents move into lower-income neighborhoods, pushes long-time residents out of their homes. As property values rise, landlords may raise rents or sell their properties to developers, displacing the people who have lived in those neighborhoods for years. Moreover, the national trend of privatizing public housing and cutting back on housing subsidies has made it even harder for low-income people to find stable housing. Programs like Section 8, which provides rental assistance to low-income families, have not kept up with the demand for affordable housing. As a result, many families are left with no choice but to live in unsafe or overcrowded conditions, or to become homeless. Alongside the housing crisis, the lack of access to mental health and addiction services is a significant factor contributing to homelessness. Many people who are homeless suffer from untreated mental illnesses, which can make it difficult for them to maintain stable housing and employment. Similarly, substance abuse is a major issue for some people experiencing homelessness, as it can be both a cause and a consequence of their situation. However, access to mental health care and addiction treatment is severely limited for many homeless individuals. The U.S. healthcare system, with its high costs and complex bureaucracy, often leaves homeless individuals with little recourse for care. Another critical factor is poverty itself. The wealth gap in America has grown wider over the past few decades, with the rich becoming richer while the poor become poorer. According to a 2020 report by the Institute for Policy Studies, the top 1% of earners now hold nearly 40% of the nation's wealth, while the bottom 90% hold just 27%. This growing inequality is a direct cause of homelessness. As more people are pushed into poverty, the likelihood of becoming homeless increases. Many people simply do not have the financial resources to weather even a small crisis, whether it's a job loss, an injury, or a medical emergency. The government's response, a systemic failure. For many years, the government's response to homelessness has been fragmented and inadequate. Federal, state, and local governments have failed to implement a comprehensive solution to this crisis. Instead of investing in affordable housing, mental health services, and social safety nets, policies have often been geared toward punishing the homeless or pushing them out of public view. Sweeps of homeless encampments, criminalizing sleeping in public spaces, and enforcing laws that prohibit loitering or panhandling are just a few of the tactics used by cities to try to deal with homelessness. These actions do nothing to address the root causes of the problem and only make life more difficult for those who are already struggling. In contrast, countries like Finland have shown that there is a better way to approach homelessness. Finland's Housing First model, which prioritizes providing homeless people with permanent, stable housing before addressing other issues like addiction or mental health, has led to a dramatic reduction in homelessness. By treating housing as a basic human right and ensuring that people have a safe place to live, Finland has significantly reduced the number of people sleeping rough. This approach has been proven to be not only more humane, but also more cost-effective in the long run. A call for change. What needs to be done? The homelessness crisis in the United States is not inevitable. It is a result of policies, systems, and choices that have prioritized the interests of the wealthy over the needs of the most vulnerable. To address this crisis, the U.S. must take bold action. The first step is to ensure that every American has access to affordable, safe housing. This means building more affordable housing, expanding rent control, and investing in public housing. The government must also provide greater support for mental health and addiction services, ensuring that people who are struggling with these issues can access the care they need. Additionally, the U.S. must raise the minimum wage to a living wage, ensuring that all workers can afford basic necessities, including housing. Expanding access to health care and increasing funding for programs that help prevent homelessness are also crucial. Most importantly, we must change our perception of homelessness. It is not a moral failing or a consequence of personal choices. It is the result of systemic inequality, inadequate public policy, and a broken economy. If the U.S. is to live up to its ideals of liberty and justice for all, it must confront the homelessness crisis head-on. Until that happens, millions will continue to sleep rough in America, the richest country on earth. The streets will remain filled with people who have been left behind, trapped in a cycle of poverty and neglect. This is not just a moral failing, it is a national tragedy, one that we must collectively strive to end.